Adam Silver himself has chimed in and addressed the situation directly, saying Cathy Engelbert has presided over historic growth in the league, but there's no question that there's issues that we need to address with our players, not just economic. There's relationship issues as well. I'm confident we can fix those over time, and this league can continue to be on the rocket trajectory that it's.
All right, before we get into this, if you're passionate about sports and want the real, unfiltered stories behind the headlines, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and tap the like button right now. It really helps us bring you more content like this. It was supposed to be a standard, boring corporate interview, the kind of PR fluff you forget seconds after it aired. But when NBA Commissioner Adam Silver sat down with NBC, he had no idea he was about to throw a lit match onto a powder keg that had been building within the WNBA for years. With a few carefully chosen, yet disastrously clumsy words, Silver didn't just spark a debate. He confirmed every single worst fear that players, fans, and analysts have been whispering about for an entire season.
Adam Silver has found himself in some serious hot water over the management of the WNBA, and is they faking ratings? I don't know, but we finna talk.
He admitted on national television that the league he oversees is broken from the inside out. What followed was a social media inferno, accusations of fake success, and a shocking exposure of leadership so out of touch, it might have just doomed the entire future of women's professional basketball. This is a story of how one interview shattered the illusion and exposed a league on the brink. When Adam Silver started talking about the WNBA, he led with what he thought was a safe compliment. He praised WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert for presiding over what he called historic growth. But in the very next breath, he detonated a bomb. He said, and I quote, "There's no question that there are issues that we need to address with our players, not just economic. There are relationship issues as well." The phrase relationship issues might sound harmless, like corporate jargon for needing better communication. But in this context, it was a nuclear admission. It was a commission of the entire NBA telling the world that the people running the WNBA and the athletes playing it cannot stand each other. He tried to sound like a calm mediator, but he came off as a confused parent stepping into a screaming match he doesn't understand.
I would love for Adam, since we're a brother-sister league, to go to some of the CBA negotiations, sit in the room, hear what the women have to say, hear some of their concerns, and let's go from there. Let's build something.
I'm here to tell you that NBA leadership is very much abreast on what's happening in these CBA negotiations. She's not the only decision maker who is.
The internet exploded within hours. Clips of the comment went viral, with fans and commentators alike dragging Silver for what they saw as a tone-deaf and revealing confession. He thought he was pouring water on the flames. Instead, he had just thrown gasoline straight onto the fire. The backlash was instantaneous and merciless. Social media platforms, particularly Twitter and Instagram, became a digital courtroom where Silver was a defendant. One viral post read, "So the NBA commissioner just confirmed the WNBA office and its players are in a toxic relationship. How is Cathy Engelbert still employed?" Another user pointed out the sheer absurdity of the situation, writing, "Adam Silver manages the egos and billion-dollar interests of LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Giannis, but he can't figure out the relationship issues in the WNBA? That tells you everything you need to know about the mess over there." The phrase relationship issues itself became a meme, with fans photoshopping Silver into couples therapy sessions with WNBA players.
The interesting was the amount of players that came to the defense of Fee and the crickets that came to the defense of Cathy for me.
I mean, this is an important part. Like, this is an important time with the CBA negotiations. Like, the players, when you look at leagues around the world, like, it is about caring for your athletes, caring for the players. And that's just not the feelings right now. And I think everyone is kind of just, they rallied around Fee because, one, that was a powerful statement to make. And obviously it puts pressure on Cathy and put pressure on the leadership. But I mean, it was a lot. It was a heavy hitter, right, Oz?
But beneath the humor was a very real and growing anger. For the players, this wasn't a joke. Silver's comment was a public validation of the private struggles they had been dealing with for years. It gave official stamp to their frustrations, and in doing so, it completely stripped away the league's carefully constructed facade of unity and progress. The media cycle, which had been focused on the ongoing finals and Caitlin Clark's injury, immediately pivoted. Sports talk shows, from mainstream ESPN panels to niche basketball podcasts, dedicated entire segments to dissecting Silver's 30-second soundbite. The narrative was no longer about the games on the court. It was about the civil war happening off of it.
Adam Silver is Cathy's boss, and he is the commissioner of the NBA. I signed a deal with Amazon to broadcast for Amazon. I got a text from Adam Silver saying congratulations. I had my third child. I got a text from Adam Silver about my third child. Now, whether this is Adam or his assistant, somebody from the league office is reaching out to me. I got a baby gift for my third child. I get a Christmas gift from Adam Silver every year. I retired. Adam Silver sent me a text message that basically congratulated me on my career and how much I've done for the women's game, and he looked forward to how much I'm gonna do from the sideline. I have not heard from Cathy. I saw Cathy in Phoenix after I had been retired for 4 months at Phoenix All-Star Game, and she said congratulations in person. And that was the only time. And so you've heard other players, Sabrina Ionescu alluded to this, I have a better relationship with Adam Silver than I do Cathy. My 2 jersey retirements, there was no Cathy.
Yeah.
So I think that Adam Silver understands the process. I don't know if he understood that Cathy was not doing that.
And Silver, with his seemingly benign corporate language, had just handed the entire story a megaphone. The timing was also impeccably bad. This interview dropped in the middle of the most watched, most scrutinized WNBA season in history, a season that was supposed to be a celebration of its rising popularity. Instead, the man at the top of the entire basketball world was now the central figure in its biggest controversy, a walking, talking reminder that for all the record jersey sales and sold-out arenas, the foundation of the league was cracking under the weight of its own leadership. But to understand why this backfired so spectacularly, you have to break down the code hidden in Silver's corporate language. His entire statement was a masterpiece of contradictory messaging. On one hand, he's talking about a rocket trajectory and historic growth. On the other, he's admitting to deep personal dysfunction. So which one is it? Is the league thriving, or is it in chaos? Because from the outside looking in, the 2025 season looked less like a rocket launch and more like a pressure cooker finally blowing its lid.
It's very personal because the WNBA wants to forbid us to make a lot of more money than we're ever going to make here, what it seems like in other leagues. So it's very personal. People have families. This is our job. We make more money in China, Russia, Turkey, than here. So it is very personal, and I don't think why it shouldn't become personal.
You had all-star forward Nneka Agwamike publicly torching Commissioner Engelbert for a comment about Caitlin Clark. You had veterans like Sophie Cunningham openly threatening a player lockout, stating flatly that athletes wouldn't show up next season if things don't change. This isn't a sign of a healthy, growing sports league. This is a sign of an institution in full-blown crisis. And by using the word unfortunate to describe the situation, Silver engaged in classic billionaire code speak, a polite way of saying this is an absolute disaster and we are trying not to panic. Let's pull that statement apart even further. When a powerful executive like Silver uses a phrase like rocket trajectory, he's speaking to investors, broadcast partners, and sponsors. It's language designed to inspire confidence and open checkbooks. But when he immediately follows it with an admission of relationship issues, he's speaking a different language entirely, the language of internal failure. This contradiction revealed a fundamental truth. The league's commercial success, whether real or inflated, was not translating into a healthy workplace culture for players. This isn't just about not getting along. It points to a catastrophic breakdown in trust and communication. What do relationship issues look like in practice? It means players don't trust a league office to have their best interests at heart during CBA negotiations. It means they feel their concerns about travel conditions, marketing support, and officiating are being ignored or dismissed. It means that when a superstar like Candace Parker retires, she doesn't hear a word from her own commissioner. This is a level of disconnect that you simply cannot have in a professional sports league. The players are the product. Without their buy-in and morale, the entire enterprise crumbles. Silver's attempt to have it both ways, to boast about growth while casually mentioning a toxic internal environment, completely undermined his credibility. It made the historic growth claim feel hollow and manipulative, as if the league was a shiny new car with a completely seized engine. You can polish the exterior all you want, but if the core machinery is broken, it's not going anywhere. This single interview did more damage to the league's reputation than any critic ever could, because it came from the one person who was supposed to be the ultimate authority and stabilizer. The players themselves are completely lost patience, and their anger is no longer simmering beneath the surface. It's being broadcast live on television and across social media. The core of this rebellion revolves around the upcoming collective bargaining agreement, or CBA, negotiations. These talks will decide everything from player salaries and revenue sharing to working conditions and travel accommodations, and the players are making it clear they are ready to go to war. Sophie Cunningham didn't just hint at a work stoppage, she all but promised one, emphasizing that the players are united in their demand for what they deserve. But the tension isn't just about money. As one player pointed out, it's deeply personal. She revealed that WNBA players can often make significantly more money playing in countries like China, Russia, and Turkey during the off-season than they can in their home league. When you have to leave your family and country to earn a living wage, the business relationship stops being just business. It becomes a deeply personal issue of respect and value. The league office, under Cathy Engelbert, seems to be ignoring this human element, and the players have had enough. This sentiment is echoed across the league. The players are no longer speaking in vague terms. They're issuing direct challenges. The public support for Nneka Ogwumike after she called out Engelbert was deafening. It wasn't just one player with a grievance. It was a unified front. Social media feeds were flooded with players from various teams posting an agreement, using hashtags that signal solidarity. This is a modern player rebellion, organized in real time for the entire world to see. They are leveraging their platforms to bypass traditional media and speak directly to the fans. And the message is clear. We are not the problem. The problem is a structure that does not support us. The issue of having to go overseas to earn a competitive salary is particularly galling. It means that the very league they help build cannot sustain them financially. It forces them to spend their off seasons, a time for rest and recovery, traveling across the world, adapting to new cultures, and playing in different leagues just to make ends meet. This grueling schedule increases the risk of injury and burnout, ultimately shortening careers and diminishing the product the WNBA is trying to sell. When players talk about respect, this is what they mean. It means being compensated fairly, so they can focus on their craft year-round. It means having charter flights for travel to ensure they are well-rested for games. It means having a commissioner who knows their names and celebrates their milestones. The CBA negotiations are not just a business meeting. They are a referendum on the value of the women in the WNBA. And after Adam Silver's comments, the players are now negotiating with the undeniable public knowledge that their boss's boss knows the relationship is broken. That is a powerful piece of leverage, and they intend to use it. Just as the tension between the players and the league office reached a boiling point, a new controversy emerged that threatened to undermine the entire narrative of historic growth that Adam Silver was trying to sell. Almost simultaneously with his rocket trajectory comments, reports and analyses began surfacing that questioned the legitimacy of the WNBA's soaring TV ratings. The culprit? A fundamental change in how the Nielsen company measures viewers. For the first time in WNBA history, the 2025 ratings suddenly included out-of-home viewing. This means they started counting screens in sports bars, airport lounges, hotel lobbies, and gyms, places where the game might be on in the background, but not necessarily by the choice of a dedicated fan. On paper, this manipulation, and let's be honest, that's what it is, makes the ratings look astronomically higher than previous years. But is the league genuinely more popular with intentional viewers? Or did someone in a suit simply decide to move the goalposts? Fans online weren't buying it for a second. One viral comment summed it up perfectly, stating, "These ratings look faker than the Aces foul calls." Another speculated, "They're cooking the stats to bury Caitlin Clark's impact and pretend the league doesn't need her." This alleged number fudging creates a haunting question. If the growth is so historic and trajectory so rock solid, why does it feel like the league is desperately trying to prove it? The timing of this methodological shift is beyond suspicious. It conveniently coincided with a season featuring Caitlin Clark, a player who genuinely drove massive, undeniable interest. By changing the measurement system at this precise moment, the league could attribute the spike in ratings to their own broad strategies rather than to the phenomenon of a single, transcendent rookie. This allows them to downplay Clark's role and create a narrative of sustainable, league-wide growth that can survive her absence. But savvy observers and media analysts quickly called this out. They noted that while other sports leagues also use out-of-home metrics, they typically do so transparently and with historical data adjusted for comparison. The WNBA's decision to implement it midstream, without providing equivalent data for previous years, makes a direct and honest comparison impossible. It's like running a race and then declaring you broke the record because you decided to measure the track in yards instead of meters after you finished. Furthermore, this controversy shifts the focus away from the players' legitimate grievances. Instead of talking about pay and working conditions, the public discourse gets tangled in a debate about statistics and methodologies. It's a classic deflection technique. If the league can point to a big, glowing number on a spreadsheet, they can pretend the internal rot doesn't exist. But the players and the fans are not fooled. This rating scandal only deepens the distrust, reinforcing the idea that the league's leadership is more concerned with optics than with solving the very real, very human problems that are tearing it apart from the inside. All of these issues, the player revolt, the PR nightmares, the questionable ratings, circle back to one central, glaring problem: the leadership, or more accurately, the stunning lack of it, from WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. While Adam Silver was accidentally exposing the league's dirty laundry, a much more damning testimony about Engelbert was emerging from one of the most respected voices in basketball history, Candace Parker. On her podcast, Parker delivered a breathtaking account of the difference in how she is treated by the two commissioners. She revealed that Adam Silver personally texted her to congratulate her on her broadcast deal with Amazon, sent her a gift when she had her third child, and reaches out every Christmas. She said, and I quote, "I retired. Adam Silver sent me a text message that basically congratulated me on my career. I have not heard from Cathy." Parker saw Engelbert months after her retirement and All-Star game, and Commissioner only then offered a belated, in-person congratulations. Parker's shocking conclusion was that she has a better, more personal relationship with the NBA's boss than with her own league's commissioner, and she's not alone. Other stars like Sabrina Ionescu have alluded to the same dynamic. This isn't just about poor management. It's about a fundamental failure to connect with, value, and even acknowledge the very human beings who are the lifeblood of the league. Candace Parker's story isn't just an anecdote. It's a case study in catastrophic leadership failure. Think about the moment she highlighted: a career-ending retirement, the birth of a child, landing a landmark broadcast deal. These are the most significant milestones in a person's life and career. For the commissioner of the NBA to recognize them shows a profound understanding of a simple truth. Sports are not just a business. They are a human endeavor built on relationships. For the WNBA commissioner to be absent in those same moments sends a message that is impossible to misinterpret. You are not a priority. You are not valued. You are an employee number on a spreadsheet. This creates a chilling effect that ripples through the entire league. If a legend like Candace Parker, a two-time MVP and three-time champion, a player who literally changed the way the game is played, receives this level of disengagement, what hope does a rookie or a role player have a feeling seen or heard? The message to the entire player pool is clear. Your sacrifices, your triumphs, and your very humanity are not important to the person in charge. This emotional neglect is the fertile ground in which the relationship issues Adam Silver mentioned can grow into a forest fire of resentment. This lack of personal touch is compounded by Engelbert's public persona, which many critics describe as overly corporate and disconnected. Her background as a former CEO of Deloitte, while bringing business acumen, seems to have translated into a leadership style that feels more suited to a boardroom than a locker room. Players and fans have consistently pointed out her tendency to use corporate buzzwords like rocket ship and economic model when discussing the league, often at moments that demand genuine empathy and clear communication. For instance, in the midst of the uproar over Caitlin Clark and the treatment of rookies, Engelbert's comments were often analyzed as being tone-deaf, focusing on broad economic metrics, rather than addressing the palpable emotional tension within her own organization. When you are a player feeling targeted by opponents, ignored by referees, or undervalued by the league office, hearing the commissioner talk about maximizing media partnerships and driving valuation feels not just out of touch, but insulting. It reduces your lived experience to a data point in a business plan. This creates a perception that Engelbert is managing a portfolio of assets, not leading a community of athletes. The contrast with how players describe their interactions with Adam Silver could not be more stark. Silver is widely perceived as a players' commissioner. He has navigated complex issues with the NBA stars, from social justice initiatives to pandemic-era bubbles, by maintaining open lines of communication and, crucially, demonstrating that he sees them as partners in the league's success. The texts and gifts Candace Parker mentioned are not just pleasantries, they are strategic tools of leadership. They build trust, foster loyalty, and create a reservoir of goodwill that a league can draw upon during inevitable times of crisis. The WNBA, in its current state, has no such reservoir. Instead, it is running on a deficit of trust. When players feel this level of disconnect from their direct leader, they stop bringing their problems to the league office and start bringing them to the public. They go on podcasts, they post on Instagram, they use post-game press conferences to voice their frustrations. This isn't them being difficult. It's a rational response to a system that has shown them time and again that it does not have a listening ear. Furthermore, Engelbert's visible absence during key moments has not gone unnoticed. Beyond the private missed moments Parker described, there have been public ones. The controversial 2024 season, which saw unprecedented attention and internal conflict, demanded a commissioner who was front and center, guiding the narrative, mediating disputes, and projecting stability. Instead, players and fans often reported a sense of absence. When veteran stars are openly discussing a lockout, the commissioner should be the most visible person in the room, working tirelessly to bridge the gap. When a generational talent like Caitlin Clark enters the league and becomes a lightning rod for controversy, the commissioner should be shaping that story, protecting the player, and ensuring the environment is conducive to her success and the league's growth. The perception that Engelbert has been missing in action during this critical juncture has been devastating to her credibility. It fuels the narrative that she is an administrator, not a leader, a manager, not a visionary. This leadership vacuum at the very top has a trickle-down effect on the entire organization. If the captain of the ship doesn't seem engaged, why should the crew be? It demoralizes the league's own staff, who are tasked with executing a vision that may feel out of sync with the reality on the ground. It confuses and angers the fans, who can sense a dysfunction and wonder who, if anyone, is steering the ship. And most importantly, it emboldens the players' belief that they must take drastic, public measures to force change. The threats of a lockout, the viral social media callouts, the searing podcast testimonies, all of these are symptoms of the system where formal channels of communication and authority have broken down. The players would not be so publicly united in their frustration if they felt their private concerns were being addressed with seriousness and respect by their commissioner. So where does this leave the WNBA? We have a league being publicly exposed by its own parent company's commissioner. We have players united and ready to strike, questioning the very legitimacy of the success they're being sold. We have a rating story that smells more like creative accounting than genuine fan engagement. And we have a commissioner in Cathy Engelbert who appears to be a ghost to her own players. While the biggest star the sport has seen in a generation, Caitlin Clark, is stuck in the middle of a civil war she never asked for. The real question now is whether Adam Silver's public stumble was a fatal error or forced intervention. Rumors are already swirling that Engelbert's job is on the line. If Silver truly wants to protect his investment and the future of women's basketball, he may have no choice but to step in and make a drastic change at the top before the 2026 season. The players are done making excuses. The fans are done being fed narratives that don't match the reality on the ground. The rocket ship Adam Silver described isn't headed for the stars. It's headed for a meltdown. And the entire world just watched him admit it with his own words. The coming months represent the most critical period in the WNBA's history, far more consequential than any draft or final series. The collective bargaining agreement negotiations will be a war, not a discussion. The players are now armed with undeniable public proof of the league's internal dysfunction, courtesy of their own boss's boss. They are not just negotiating for a larger slice of the revenue pie. They are negotiating for the very soul of the league. They are fighting for respect, for dignity, and for a leadership structure that sees them as partners, not problems. The threat of a lockout is not an empty one. Imagine the catastrophic message it would send if, after the most visible season in WNBA history, the following year doesn't happen at all. The momentum that Caitlin Clark brought, the new television deals, the sponsor interest, all of it would evaporate overnight. A lost season would shatter the trust of the newfound fan base and validate every critic who claimed the league was unmanageable. The players know this, but their resolve suggests they believe short-term pain is necessary for long-term survival. They are willing to risk it all because the current path is already seen as a dead end. For Adam Silver, this is his ultimate leadership test. His comments, while damaging, have also created a moment of stark clarity. He can no longer remain in the background, offering vague support while the ship sinks. The situation demands his direct and decisive intervention. The business case is clear. The WNBA is a vital long-term asset for the NBA, a gateway to a massive, underserved market of sports fans. Allowing it to collapse under the weight of poor leadership would be a catastrophic business failure. But beyond the balance sheet, there is a legacy issue. Silver is remembered as a commissioner who navigated the NBA through a pandemic and supported player activism. How will he be remembered regarding the WNBA? As a visionary who secured its future, or the overseer who presided over its implosion? The solution likely involves a painful but necessary change. Cathy Engelbert, for all her business expertise, has lost the confidence of the players. In any organization, when a workforce has no faith in its CEO, a change must be made. Silver may have to personally step in to mediate the CBA talks, not as a distant figure, but as an active, engaged arbitrator, to show the players that someone at the highest level is finally listening. And what of the future if a change is made? The next commissioner of the WNBA cannot be another corporate CEO chosen solely for their business pedigree. The league needs a unifying figure, someone who understands the game, the culture, and the players on a visceral level. The names that fans and pundits throw out are telling. Former players like Swin Cash, Sue Bird, or Tamika Catchings. Leaders who have lived a life, who understand the struggle of playing overseas, who have felt the sting of disrespect, and who have innate trust of the current player pool. Imagine a commissioner who can walk into a locker room and not have to introduce themselves. Imagine a leader who players text for advice, not to complain. This isn't about choosing a friend over a qualified executive. It's about choosing a leader with emotional intelligence and cultural competency over one who only sees spreadsheets. The business growth is important, but it must be built on a foundation of authentic leadership. The next commissioner's first task won't be to secure a new sponsor. It will be to pick up the phone and call every single player in the league and simply ask, what do you need? The role of the fans in this drama cannot be overstated. The viral backlash to Adam Silver's comments, the deep dives into the ratings metrics, the unwavering support for players. This is not just noise. It is the market speaking. Fans are not passive consumers. They are active participants in a league's ecosystem. They can sense authenticity, and they can smell a cover-up from a mile away. The WNBA possesses something incredibly rare, a deeply passionate, socially conscious, and highly engaged fan base. But that fan base is now being tested. They are being asked to choose between the league's official narrative and the lived experiences of their heroes. So far, they are siding with the players. This trust is the WNBA's most valuable asset, and it is being squandered. If the league continues down this path of internal conflict and perceived deception, it risks alienating the very people who fought for its survival during the lean years. In the end, the story of the 2025 WNBA season will be written not in the record books, but in the boardrooms this offseason. The collision course is set. On one side, a united front of players demanding change, backed by a skeptical and vocal fan base. On the other, a leadership structure exposed as dysfunctional, desperately trying to maintain a narrative of success that fewer and fewer people believe. Adam Silver now stands at the crossroads. His next move will determine everything. Does he continue to endorse a failed status quo? Or does he become the agent of the radical change the league so desperately needs? The rocket trajectory he described has indeed reached a critical moment, not a flight, but a re-entry. The world is watching to see if it lands safely or burns up in atmosphere. The players are ready to write their own future. The only question left is whether the league will finally decide to listen. If you made it to the end of this video, you know how crucial it is to stay informed on stories that the mainstream media often glosses over. The drama in the WNBA is far from over, and the decisions made in the next few months will reshape professional sports. We'll be here to break it all down for you. So do us a huge favor, subscribe to the channel, and hit that like button if you want more deep dives like this. Your support is what makes this possible. Thanks for watching. In the end, the testimony from Candace Parker and others isn't just about hurt feelings. It's a diagnostic tool that points to the root cause of the WNBA's internal crisis. You cannot manage human capital the same way you manage financial capital. The relationship issues are not a side effect of the business. They are the core of the business. A sports league is a partnership between management and labor, and that partnership requires trust, communication, and mutual respect. By failing to build those fundamental human connections with her players, Cathy Engelbert has not just failed as a leader, she has actively created the conditions for the very rebellion that is now threatening to consume the league. The players aren't just asking for more money, they are asking for a leader who sees them as people. And until that fundamental need is met, no amount of rocket trajectory talk will fix what is broken.